So we're live and hello. Welcome to this episode of Smart Accounting with APM Help. I'm Teresa Conway Hayes, and APM Help is a team of experts that work with property management trust accounting daily. And in this podcast, our expert will reveal strategy for property managers to better manage their accounting. So first of all, I have an announcement that we will be at the National NARPM in Arizona, October 15th through the 18th. So please visit us at booth number 42. Come over and say hi. Ask us questions about your bookkeeping. Ask us about any of the products that we have to offer, such as consulting and full service bookkeeping, daily bank recs, and we also provide maintenance now as well with fixed. So be sure to find us and be sure to say hello. Today's topic is sticky FDR issues. As Appfolio experts and bookkeepers, we hear a lot of complaints about issues on the Financial Diagnostic Report. Joining us today is Rain. And Renee, would you pronounce your last name for me so I get it correct?
Yeah, it's Bonadat.
Yes. And we will discuss cleaning up the financial diagnostic and how those corrections should stick. But transactions don't always stay fixed due to a few reasons. So let's get started with a big welcome to Rain. Hi, Rain.
Hi, Teresa. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. My first question is going to be, what exactly is the Financial Diagnostic Report and where can we find it?
Yeah, of course. So to kick things off, the Financial Diagnostic Report is a report in Appfolio that shows discrepancies in liability. So that would mean that maybe your prepaid account isn't where it should be. All prepaid should be supported by cash on the tenant side, as well as liability established on the tenant ledger. And that goes the same for security deposits as well. There should always be a security deposit charge on the ledger and cash to match that amount. So if there's ever any discrepancies between the cash or liabilities, they'll show up on the diagnostic report. And that is found under accounting and then diagnostics.
Great. So does everyone have access to the diagnostic page?
No, not by default. So usually presidential, accounting, and property manager user roles have access. And you can change that access through Appfolio support by submitting a support request, or you can always chat on their quick chatting feature that they just rolled out about a year ago. So that's a quick way to get it fixed. If you have anyone in your company who currently does not have access or does have access and shouldn't, then just go ahead and submit a support request and they can get that fixed.
Perfect. So what are some examples of some issues that might show up on the FDR?
Yeah, so there's quite a few things that can cause something to show up on the Financial Diagnostic Report, but just to name a few, one of them is online payments. So if someone has a bank account enabled, so their operating bank account enabled for payments, but not the security account, a lot of times when tenants go to pay rent for their first month, they'll also pay the security deposit. And so then that full amount goes into operating, and Appfolio doesn't flag or send an email when that happens. You just have to be aware that it's happening, and a lot of people miss it and then don't make the transfer. Another thing is that a lot of people don't use the move out flow, which is designed to prevent issues, and a lot of people will do it manually on their own, which causes a lot of issues, not only in the liability side of things, but also in the cash side of things. Transfers won't be made, or maybe the wrong amount will be transferred. So there's just a variety of issues that stack up when you don't use the move out flow. And then another big one that I see happen is that people do not use the concessions feature correctly, which is under general settings, manage accounting settings. And there's this little section that no one ever pays attention to, and that is where you can set up GL accounts that you plan on giving concessions from. Concessions can come in all shapes and sizes. So that means that maybe you have an agreement that if someone signs in the month of December, they get $200 off their first month. That's a concession, and that should be set up in that setting. Also, a concession in Appfolio is considered to be when you're waiving a fee, like a late fee, you're giving a credit to that tenant. And so usually if you're giving a credit, you want it to apply to a charge. And that doesn't happen if the GL account is not set up correctly.
Right, and I've seen that. So what I'm hearing from you is that prepayments is one of the culprits. Not setting the concessions up as a key account could be another.
Mhm.
But these are all things that are very important and easy to miss. And we're talking about them today, and you've done a great um, effort to explain them, but I just want to remind viewers that if you have further questions, we do have this Facebook page where you can comment on this live Facebook video. We don't actually have anybody monitoring comments right now, but we're always happy to get back to you as soon as possible. So let's go ahead and move forward to the next question about what are some ways to avoid these issues on the diagnostic report so that
Yeah,
we don't have to fix them.
yeah. And that's always key because you don't want to have to go back and backtrack things that you've already done. So the ways to avoid it is to do things right the first time, which is easier said than done. So, a big thing that I mentioned in my previous answer and what I'm going to say again is definitely always utilize the move out flow. I know a lot of people think that they can do it themselves, that they've got a handle on it, but more times than not, a step will be missed, just a minor little step, such as utilizing the clearing account to refund the tenant or transferring a certain amount of funds to operating if you refund your tenant out of escrow. It's just there's a lot of little hiccups that can happen. So utilizing the move out flow is key. Another thing is making sure that you're checking the diagnostic every month. I recommend always checking it before you pay your owners because it'll populate any issues like what I mentioned where online payments can go into operating. So it'll show you that you have that issue before you pay your owners. And that way you don't end up paying your owner the tenant security deposit. And then you have to go back to your owner and say, hey, I overpaid you. Can you give that back? Or you pay them less the next month. Just is never fun to do that. And then another thing is just to make sure that you're paying all of the bills that are generated at move out when you complete the move out. Because a lot of things come up in the day to day life of a property manager that are not foreseen. So making sure you take the time, that extra 3 minutes to make sure that everything is paid, make sure that you've done the transfer in the bank. That is key because people will step away from their computer and they'll be like, oh, I'll definitely remember, come back, and they have no idea where they left off. So just key to get it done when you're doing it. Even if you don't have check stock right next to you, go find it, print the check, and then you'll be good to go.
So what I'm hearing here is that it's good to go back and check yourself. We have, Appflow has reports that you can go look at and see if the transaction that you posted or the process, such as a move out, was done correctly. Is that right?
Yeah, so the main report that would show you that is the diagnostic. That would be the quickest way to find the issue. You can also check to make sure your transfer was done correctly by running a general ledger. And one way you could customize that general ledger is by doing it as of the month that you're completing the move outs. And then there's a last edited at date range that Appfolio did add to the general ledger. So you can create or make that date the day that you did all of your move outs. So that way you're only seeing the transactions that apply to those move outs that you were completing.
Awesome. So what if a property management company is already doing those things, but is still seeing issues appear on the diagnostic page?
Yeah, so you can be doing everything right in the book, and some things will still pop up as issues. And a lot of that comes in from tenants making prepayments on their online portals. You just have to be on top of that. Even if your security deposit account is enabled for online payments, it can still happen. So always be on top of that. Make sure that all the tenant payments are going into the right account. The diagnostic can be used for that, but you can also do a general ledger report to see where the cash is going. So if you've got a lot of move-ins in May, which is a popular move-in time, you want to be sure that you're checking a diagnostic, you're checking your tenant payments at that time. Another thing is there's an additional fee section that has scared a lot of people. Their diagnostic was perfectly clean before, and now they've got a bucket of new issues.
Yep.
So to explain that section, that's not a liability issue. It's just there to prevent discrepancies on your owner statements. And the way that it does that is it's telling you that either number one, you have negative balances, so you've over collected, And another is that you've got positive balances, so you've undercollected. So either way, you're either going to have to reimburse or pay the money out to you to clean up that section. Or if it's a prior year, you can write it off. And I would recommend either reaching out to us or contacting Outfolio before writing it off, just to make sure that you're not doing it incorrectly. But, that's just another example. If you're doing everything perfect, you feel like you've got perfect books, those little things pop up, and the additional fee section populates every single day. So if you get a new application fee in, that's going to cause an issue on the diagnostic.
Okay. So why do FDR fixes not always stick after cleaning up the issues?
Yeah, so one big thing that I know is a lot of property managers delegate too much. So then you've got too many hands in the bucket. You've got people doing move outs all across the office, but they're not talking to one another, which causes a lot of overlap or maybe duplication of efforts. And it just leads to a huge hoopla of issues. So I would always recommend making sure that you've got, one or two people that are your key people to do move outs. And then you've got one or two people to do move ins. And that is the flows that they know it well, they do it, and they coordinate with one another to talk about who's going to be doing what. That is super key. Also, another thing that causes things to not stick on the FDR is changing your key account settings. A lot of people think that just changing the GL account settings to be offset to operating or be offset to escrow. It's just a small little change on the chart of accounts, but big picture, now you're telling Appfolio that all of the funds that are currently being held in escrow for this specific liability should now be in operating, and they're not. So then you're going to have tons of issues show up. And that usually happens a lot with when people decide that they want all owner held deposits or they want all management held deposits, they just change the GL account. Don't do that. And yeah, I mean, those are the big ones that I would say. Also, just reversing things that were created upon go live. You could be completely clean at go live, but then if you go in and try to reverse journal entries or reverse receipts that you don't think that they look good or they shouldn't be there, that's going to cause issues. So always reach out to Outfolio or APM Help before doing that.
Yeah, because that's like the foundation of setting up your file.
Right. And if something was set up wrong and you see one property that's wrong, that probably means there's multiple others or one or two that are also incorrect.
Well, it sounds like you speak from a lot of experience and you've probably seen all of these scenarios happen in different clients' databases.
Yeah, definitely. And also, working, with new clients on the Appfolio side, whenever I was there, you do see a lot of issues with the go live numbers and people trying to fix it themselves. So that's one thing that I just beg people, please do not do it yourself. Once you get an example from, APM Help and we show you how to fix it, by all means, fix it from there on out by yourself. But there's no help article that tells people how to fix those things or change their go live numbers. So just don't do it. Just don't do it.
Yeah, in case our viewers didn't catch that, you are an ex-Appfolio expert, aren't you?
Yes. Yep.
So you have on the line experience.
Definitely. Yeah, I've seen it all pretty much. Well, that's what I think. But there's always something new around the corner.
Somebody can surprise you maybe.
Yes.
So you work with this stuff every day. Do you have any of your own tips or tricks that you'd offer for bookkeepers and accountants and property managers that do their own books?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've kind of sprinkled them in throughout. So just to recap or reiterate what I've said, I would say that decide on who's going to do the move in and move out flows, decide how you want them done. Are you going to be refunding tenants from escrow or are you going to be refunding them from operating? Figure that out and set it and don't change it. And then the next is just stay on top of the transactions in Appfolio. So when you do something in real life in the bank, you need to also do it in Appfolio at that same time, same day. So when you go to reconcile, it's clean and you're not trying to figure out, oh gosh, what did I do 3 weeks ago? It's hard. It's hard to do when you're touching tons and tons of transactions every day. And then the next thing, and one thing I didn't mention, but it correlates with our previous podcast, is sign up for Triple Tied Up. That is an amazing way to stay on top of your books and making sure that your liabilities are staying where they should be. It's one of the categories that we check, and you get a daily email on it. And I personally, I'm not a property manager, but if I was, I think it would be really nice to have that to make sure that everything's getting done that should be done.
Well, and mentioning signing up for Triple Tied Out, that does remind me, and I probably should have had that in the announcement, that I believe there is a special offer going on for Triple Tied Out right now. So anyone who is looking at this, and I'll also put in the comments later on after this broadcast, is that if you go to tripletiedout.com, you'll be able to see a pop-up for that offer that's going on right now. So this has been a lot of great information. Thank you, Rain. You've provided so much useful information. We thank you for joining us today. So for those of you folks who find yourself struggling to get your diagnostics clean, we would love to help you. You can reach out to us through our website at apmhelp.com. You can call us, and I'll give you the phone number now, but I'll also put it in the comments. It's 281-949-8755, or you can send us an email at info@apmhelp.com. We look forward to future episodes with all of you. Please be sure to comment and ask us any questions that you might have for anything that Rain has discussed during this episode. It's the video portion of this is going to be uploaded to YouTube, and then once we get the editing taken care of for the audio portion, that will be uploaded for our podcast, and all of that information will be posted as it happens. So everyone have a great day. Thanks again, Rain, and we will see you again next time.